Hey, welcome to the Good Fight Collective podcast. So glad you're with us today. I'm Jason. This is my friend George. Good Fight Collective is a ministry. We want to help you be stronger together. And one of the ways we do that is we put this content out to help encourage you in the good fight of faith. Today, we're going to be talking about answering some questions that some of you have sent in. We have a Q&A form on our YouTube link, and that'll be open for future podcasts as well. So in today's episode, we're going to answer some more questions that some of you have sent in. And to help us with that is our good friend, Peyton Barrett. Peyton.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome, Peyton.
Yeah. So just as you set up, we've got some questions from the community, and there's some heavy hitters in here. Yeah. They didn't hold them back this time around. So we'll just get straight into it because some of these could be their own episode in and of themselves.
Yeah.
As a man, how do I balance being tough and being gentle? Because those are opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
A lot of the situations that we come up against as men in our lives require us to, a lot of times, practice both of those, sometimes at the same time, sometimes at different parts of a process through a situation. How do we balance both of those?
We just jumped right in the deep end right off the bat.
We're gonna run out of time quick. We gotta get going.
That's a great question, and you're right. There's often times where you're called upon to be the man, to be the protector, be out in front. Take the bullet, whatever it might be, and then there's the tender times as well of being saying the prayers with your kids in the rooms and different things along those times, and it's a little tough. I think if I think about that, I think being dead to self and alive in Christ is what comes to mind to me. So if I'm dead to self and alive in Christ, whether I win or whether I lose, and boy, I like to compete, and if they keep score, I want to win. And a lot of times you got to be tough, and even if it's athletics or business or whatever it might be. So for me, it's just that whole some dead to self, alive to Christ. Therefore, win or lose, glory to God. And if you know that, and that's where you're grounded and you're foundational, you can step up and be tough. But if God tells you to walk away, and there's times that He's told me to face somebody and go in with hopefully some grace and mercy and share something with them, and that's tough. But there's other times when the situation gets and He goes, walk away. It's like, no, I want to stay and fight. I want to be right and have might. But when God says, hey, no, walk away, that's some of that. And it makes me think of a verse in Matthew, right? We know this I love this. I'm sending you out like sheep, with wolves around you. So there's tough times. In the Christian life, we're going to have tough times. It says, be as wise as snakes and as gentle as a dove. So I think God anticipated this whole thing with men being tough and being gentle. So we want to be as wise as a serpent. We want to be discerning. We want to be cautious. We want to read the room. We're the protectors. That's in our DNA. That's in our nature. That's what God's called us to be. But then as harmless as a dove. Okay, we still want to show the love of Christ in how we go about what we do. I don't know. There's a little bit of things that jump into my mind.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys lean towards one or the other. Like, I focus on being tough and being the guy, or I focus on, being sensitive or my feelings and all those things we love to talk about. That balance is a really fascinating balance because I think from childhood, most of us learn to escape to one of those, but not both, and not have a balance. And to speak John Eldridge for a second, many of us had a father that was strong in one of those, but maybe not in the middle or both. And a
lot of times it's usually not the gentle.
Correct.
Because as men, that's not typically our default.
Yeah,
right?
100%. And I remember a long time ago when I read a book from Scazzaro about emotional healthy spirituality, and it really challenged me with the emotional part of my faith and that gentleness and being aware and allowing yourself to experience emotions really, like, God made you that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so trying to find that balance for me, as I think about this a lot, is Paul in prison. I mean, Paul is like this, at this point, he has been on the journey. He's like the greatest missionary. He's out doing the thing, yet he's in prison. And he's singing worship songs. And he has every reason to be complaining, and yet he is just leading and pointing back to the Jesus that put him in jail. And you're like, what? Tough and gentle, like on mission, at the same time surrendered. And that's a really fascinating balance to figure out. And I think for all of us, it looks a little different. And that's a little bit of the journey. Like that equation isn't one size fits all. But it's definitely a balance that's worth considering and thinking about for sure.
Yeah, and I'll jump back in. The Sermon on the Mount in Matthew comes to mind. And that whole meekness. Boy, I hated reading that as a 20-something and getting out. I don't want to be meek. Well, finally, I learned that meekness is not weakness. It's power under control.
Yeah.
But not my control. You know, going back to maybe what I said a little bit earlier too, if I place the full meekness, the power under control that God's given me under his authority and walking in a way he wants me to be, there'll be times I'll rise up. Everybody likes to talk about Jesus flipping over the tables, but that was righteous indignant against what was trying to take place. It was taking people away from the kingdom of God. So in that area, we'll step up sometimes and be incredibly bold. But then there's other times too that he says, no, it's okay. I got it. Oh yeah, there's this really cool story I had from college. There was this one professor, we all did bad on the test, and he looked at me because I was a little vocal in my faith too, and I think he was not that way. He says, hey, you're going to reap what you sow, is what he was trying to tell everybody. You must not have studied on your test. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, but you'll be shown mercy by the mercy you show. So he didn't change our grades. But again, to me, it was a little bit of that. He was flexing, and I was like, well, can you show some meekness towards us? Can you show some grace and some mercy? So just like what Jason just said there's different times to show that weakness. There's different times to show the mercy. There's different times to stand up and take the bullet for your family or whomever else who might be around.
I will say this too real quick, and I know that it's an echo from us, but this is one of those areas that it's also phenomenal to have the brothers in your life in, because sometimes it's a phone call to go, hey, how do you think I should navigate this? Is this a time for me to be tough, or is this a time for me to be gentle? And I know even for George and I over the years, as he's wrestled with stuff with his parenting and life, I can be someone to listen and give feedback. And I'm not the parent, but I can listen and give observation about, hey, that sounds like it's time to be tough. Sounds like it's time to be gentle, or vice versa. He's been that for me in a lot of decisions that I face. So I do think when it comes to the idea of collective and good fight, this is a question that sometimes could cause us to lean into that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And you have been that for me, Jason. A lot of times to have that sounding board of a brother and a brotherhood is, are you even fighting the right fight?
Yes.
Are you fighting the right? Are you being bold and being all that and getting puffed up, but you're not even fighting the right fight? So it can help get your perspective in line with the brotherhood around you, and you're not out there by yourself.
Yeah, and I love. I'm one of those guys that loves to think about Jesus flipping the tables in the synagogue, right? Because, and you brought up Eldridge. If we're going to go back to Eldridge language, is he talks about, when we're looking for a model in our lives as men for how do we figure out what's the model, what's the architecture for the balance between gentle and also needing to be tough sometimes. And he talks about like when Jesus, when someone came to Jesus and they needed healing and they needed gentleness, you couldn't find anybody that was more gentle and more compassionate than Jesus, right? And then when somebody was coming up against Jesus's mission, now, and I think we have to clarify, when somebody was coming up against Jesus' righteous mission, right, that was given by God and was co-signed by God, and when someone was coming up against that and trying to pervert that in some way, there was no one that was more righteously, keyword righteously, tough against his enemies, right? And so I think, and to bring it back to what you said, that's where having brothers who can, not only that you can go to for advice and ask, hey, how did you deal with this? Have you had to deal with this? But also brothers who can call you out and go, dude, you were just really tough in that scenario. And that was not righteous toughness.
Good.
So we might need to,
Yeah,
so I
100%.
think that just calls back to like the importance of, one, you can look to Jesus as an example, but two, you really need those brothers to help you figure out that might need to call you out on your blindness of, hey dude, you were really tough there, but that was not righteous toughness. And we got to pull that back. And there might need to be some apologies that take place. Right.
That's good.
So move down the list. Rapid fire. We got to keep it, we got to keep it moving. Jason, I hear you talk about a phrase, a lot of people that are in your inner circle, but even your outer circles and beyond that, hear you talk, say the phrase a lot, porching it, porching it. What does that mean? I think George and I have learned real well what that has meant for you. The first time that you and I interacted, you were like, dude, let's go porch it. And I was like, you have to teach me what this means. And then as soon as I learned what it meant, and as soon as I came and porched it with you, I was like, dude, we have to do this like all the time. Yeah. So can you jump into that for us and explain a little bit of the philosophy behind that?
When I was in college 100 years ago, me and a couple really good friends met every week at this place we called the Mountain. It was not a mountain; it was a hill, but it was on campus.
But for guys, it was like it was a mountain.
It was a mountain, and we're like 18, and so we went to the gas station and used a credit card and bought like honey buns and Mountain Dews and
as guys do,
gas station cigars like Swisher Sweets, and thought we were kings,
right?
And we would go up there and hang out and just talk about life and talk about our week and and it was this brotherhood and this accountability that was like addicting. Like, man, I'm so grateful to have these dudes I can talk about stuff. I don't know that I'd ever sit around and talk to guys about stuff like that when it came to my life and faith before. And then after college, I moved back to my hometown and started working in student ministry. And along the way, I realized I missed that time with those dudes. And I tried to recreate that. And what that looked like was a back porch and, having a couple places for couches or chairs, eventually TVs. And it got out of control in a good way, like this space where people could just come hang out. And it's not about smoking cigars. It's not about beverages or anything like that. And maybe that happens. It's about just having space where you could come hang out and talk. And as time has gone on, you realize like we're always on our phones. We're always so busy, or we're always consuming things. To be able just to sit and talk and hang out and maybe not be in a hurry and maybe just be able to talk about life and faith and kind of this collision of it. And so for me, it's kind of become this like thing. Like it's for me personally, hanging out. Like last night, I literally went and sat on my porch and I was reading this devotional, and I just needed to kind of like turn the noise out and just be quiet. And it's like that for the porch is like a sacred place for me, but also it's this place that I've realized like creating space for other people to have just time to hang out and talk. And sometimes you talk about really deep things. Sometimes it's just hanging out and just catching up and, hey, what's going on? But that there's like someone there who's going to listen and who's going to ask you questions and who loves you and who's there for you. And so the porch for me has just been this literally very sacred part of my life and ministry. I never really thought, like years ago, I would have never thought, hey, this is going to be like your thing. But for me, when it comes to the good fight, the porch is part of that, like having that space where you can just hang out. And I love that I get text all the time from someone going, hey, can I porch it tonight? And what that means is, it might mean, hey, I need to talk about something. It might just mean I just need to like go hang out for an hour and just chill.
I just need to escape.
100%.
Turn my mind off.
What does that mean to someone when they ask that? Like, yeah. So it might just mean, hey, I want to watch the game. I just want to be quiet and watch the game and just chill. And over the years, the porch has played this like really pivotal role in tragedy. Just a place, just to hang out, and we don't have the answers, but we can just be there. In celebration of like monumental things that have happened in the lives of our friends. And so it's just become like this thing. And so porching has become like a verb. And I'm super grateful for that and how God's used it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I learned very quickly from the first time that we porched it was it's a safe space.
Yeah.
Right? Like what happens on the porch, what is said on the porch stays on the porch.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's such a vital part of creating an authentic place like that where authenticity can thrive. And that's such a big part of groups as well for men.
For sure.
Is taking that porch it ethos and translating that into your men's group.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating. There's been times where George and I will be hanging out and someone would say something that's on the porch that is one of those things, and I want to unpack it. And so I'm doing this like dance. I don't dance, not physical dance, but like
we'd love to see that. If it happens on the porch, it stays on the porch.
But no, just trying to unpack this like a scenario with my brother, who's such a great part of my life, and they go, hey, this person's whatever. And sometimes there's like that line of like, hey, I need someone to help me think through this. At the same time, like that's a sacred space. And so there's been this dance over years, and I could see it. Like sometimes I could see George like, do I fish or do I not fish? Do I just let it sit?
Yeah. So I've watched you over the years. I've seen the numerous guys that even when we're hanging out, your phone will blow up and somebody wants to come porch it, as they say, for what you've already talked about there. But yes, and taking it off the porch, and you're right, it's a sacred space. It's there. There's no names or anything, but sometimes you would break things down with me. Hey, one of the guys on the porch said such and such. What do you think? So again, it's that whole reaching up, reaching back, being right there with everyone. So I've loved watching you on the porch. I know some of the young men, a lot of them are in ministry, a lot of them are married, a lot of them have kids, but are following Jesus because of what took place on the porch. Now, the porch may be something that your group does. It may be something you go, maybe I'm going to start trying to porch it, or wherever that safe space may be. I watched you go down to work at a church in Florida. You created a porch because you didn't have one at the church with a fire pit. And then when you finally got to buy a house, first thing you did is build a porch because you got to have a place to porch it. So I've watched you, tip of the hat to the porching over the years.
It's funny. There's a kind of a brotherhood of, I invested often 20 plus years in like high school dudes. And when they graduated, they are always invited to join the porch. And it become this like sacred moment of like, hey, you're out of high school now.
It's a rite of passage.
Yes. Yeah. And that was some really fascinating moments, some really funny things that happened. But
and that's a segue for some of the men even watching this here of going, you may be that person that God's calling to create that porch environment for some of those young guys.
And that's what I was about to say. What's really cool for me now at this season of my life is getting messages from guys now who have created their own porch, who now have done that. They've moved away. They're doing life or whatever. But I'll get this text every now and then, hey, dude, hang on the porch with my dudes, man. Just wanted to say thanks for, and you're like, how cool is this? Like that little space we created 20 years ago or 15 years ago is still resonating today. And I think there's something about that's not, it's not, it doesn't, anyway, it's just one of those things that's really powerful in the lives of guys. We're simple creatures, and sometimes just having space to be able to be heard and to be able to connect is a really powerful thing.
Well, we're 2 questions into this Q&A. I can see that we're definitely going to have a part 2 of this. So maybe time for one more question here on this one.
Yeah. Your website says that most men operate alone. Can you share what you guys mean by that?
Yeah, that's kind of a perfect question after just talking about the porch and all the reason for the porch. And I'll throw this one thing out. You ask most guys, hey, how you doing? I'm good. And then it's kind of silence, right? It's just silence on there. How you doing? I'm good. And that's all you get. And that's guys operating alone. That's probably one of the best examples that I have, because it's like, man, you don't really care. I don't think you care. You don't have time. And we just talked about porching it. That's what the porch allows. So, Jason, what do you think? What do you think it means operating alone?
As we were looking at that language and we were asking the Lord for wisdom and what he's given us to steward with Good Fight Collective, one of the things we kept coming back to is that in a lot of churches, there's a lot of men who aren't known. And there are also a lot of men who are in a group, but they're not known. Like I go to group, I check the box, I sit in the circle every week and I answer the questions, or I go to Sunday school or whatever it is, but I'm not known. Like you know the little part of me, but there's a lot of part of me that you don't know. And I think there's a lot of guys that kind of operate in this world of like, I'm just going to do the thing and provide for my family. And there's a lot of nobility about that.
Check
you're
the
also
box.
100%, but you're also running through this world unknown. And there's power in being known. And so when we wrote, after a long season, George and I went through a long season of asking the Lord for some wisdom and some verbiage. And as we went through a process of that, this sentence kind of emerged of most men operate alone, because we think that's a problem to solve. And one of the ways to solve it is the local church creating places for men to be connected, whether that's through group, whether that's through serving. There's something about it. So like you served in the middle school ministry at your church. Because of that, you're more known.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's people that know your name. There's a group of students that look up to you. You have a co-leader that you've connected with. Like,
And what I've found is there is something so, and this can kind of become a tangent, but there's something so powerful about being shoulder to shoulder in ministry with somebody like a co-leader. Like, we have to go to a certain depth that we're not forced to go to with somebody that we're just buddies with, right? Because we have to have conversations with our students about stuff that we're like, well, if we got to have conversations with our students about that stuff, we need to make sure that like we're on the same page about that stuff and where you are with that kind of thing. And so that kind of brotherhood, like it double clicks on some stuff real fast that you're like, hey, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, we got to blow up one of our group members last night. He just welcomed a new grandchild. Wow. And it was fun. So he posted a picture of him holding his new grandchild. And it was just great because we got to blow him up, man. Just love on him, tell him how great it was, how awesome. You know, he had a big smile on his lips and just beaming as a grandpa there. And just that he's not alone. He's known. He can share that beyond just that immediate family. We as brothers got to come around and do that piece.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, I've had this weird season of things not going the way I wanted them to go. And I just was in one of those places where you're like, man, my dad's in the hospital and this is going on and I hurt myself and blah, blah, blah. And just like thing after thing wasn't going the way. And honestly, part of me wanted to just retract and leave me alone. Like, let me just kind of, I live in the mountains, just let me be and I'll be fine, right? And then part of me needed to text my group and say, hey guys, I need you to pray for me. You know, dad's in the hospital, and this is going on, and this is going on. And I'm just like, I am, you know, it's a lot right now. And when you send that message, you're known. And to get the response, hey, praying for you, dude, what do you need? Hey, I'm here for you. Like that thing of like, hey, we stand alone together. Hey, all of a sudden I'm inviting my brothers into this thing and I'm known and I've got people who are praying with me, for me. And I think there's something about that for a lot of us, we don't take that step. And I'm very guilty of that at times. Like I'm not the poster child, but I think there's a season of brokenness where you learn I got to be known. I have to allow people into this thing. And so that's the genesis of this for us was, man, most men operate alone, and we know that's a problem that needs to be solved. And so for Good Fight Collective, it's one of the things, one of the North Stars for us is we want to help churches help men be known.
That's right. And so even sometimes when it's group night, and it's almost like Satan creeps in my mind some and going, you're too tired, you're too busy, you got too much on your plate. And that's all those things of operating alone. And it's like, no, push through. So I encourage, push through, guys. Go to your group. Because, man, once I get there, it is a lot of times just what we need. So as we land a plane on this Q&A, and we'll come back on a part 2 soon, keep fighting the good fight. Fight on.